Or if Trump tries to unravel the Affordable Care Act administratively, what kind of facts is he going to have? Remember, this was the administration that tried to discredit the Congressional Budget Office, even in advance of the Congressional Budget Office showing what the consequences would be of the repeal of the Affordable Care Act. Courts are not going to defer to Trump's fact-finding because there's no fact-finding. There's no facts. Or consider cases where states try to defend tougher voter ID laws. It's going to be harder because of Trump's unfounded claim that 3 to 5 million voters voted fraudulently in the 2016 election. There is not a shred of evidence. And because of that claim, a lot of studies came out showing there was not a shred of evidence for that claim. And those studies are going to influence the courts. I don't want to be a Pollyanna about this. I just mean that Trump and his colleagues or his administrators, his cabinet, they've been shooting themselves in the feet by essentially engaging in fact-free policy analysis. So I do expect the courts are going to be very, very involved. There's going to be a lot of litigation, and there's going to be a lot of pushback. And now your questions. Maureen Sinclair, you say, I feel depressed because I don't think we as a nation will ever recover from the 2016 election, and all the things Trump has already done to our feelings about ourselves and our country tell me I'm wrong. Maureen, I hope you're wrong. I'll tell you why I think you might be wrong. Because there is extraordinary resilience in this country. Look at all of the people who are now, for the first time in their lives, getting active politically. Look at all of the people who, including many Republicans, and I want to emphasize this, this is not just a Democrat or even independent issue. A lot of Republicans are saying, I'm worried about democratic small d institutions. I'm worried about the press. I'm worried about the courts. I'm worried about our system of governance, our system of government. We've got somebody in the White House who lies through his teeth, who denigrates the press, who basically criticizes judges who disagree with him. That's bad for democracy. That's unconstitutional. You see, Trump is bringing us together in a very ironic, paradoxical way. He's activating us in ways we haven't been activated since, what, the anti-Vietnam War movement. There is a silver lining on this. It's possible we could be better off as a people. We could be a better people because we've gone through Trump. Peter Morales. The Wall Street Journal reports today that Michael Flynn is seeking immunity. Yes, I just talked about this, Peter, from prosecution in exchange for testifying. And what does this mean? Well, Peter, I did have a chance to go over this a little bit. I think what it means is that Flynn's lawyer is worried that Flynn might be prosecuted for some of the things that he is being accused of doing in terms of not just the lies he told Congress, but also perhaps some of the interactions he had with Russian operatives. And so the mere fact that there is an offer out there to tell more by Flynn in exchange for immunity from prosecution suggests to me that there is something that Flynn wants to trade. That's big news if there is. Ilya Rosenfeld. What are the implications of U.S. citizens being relabeled as customers in the new White House initiative to be led by Jared Kushner? Well, Ilya, we are not customers, we're citizens. Government is not a business. It is a democracy in this country. And what Trump is trying to do, and what Jared Kushner and others around him are trying to do, is make us forget that we are citizens, that they are working for us. We are not working for them. You see, if they can create the impression that they are just one big corporation, we are customers, but we are also what? We are workers in their corporation. And so we buy from them, they give us services, we work for them. I'm sorry. That power relationship has nothing to do with what public servants owe the public. Kushner, Trump, they are all working for you. They're working for me. We are not working for them, and we are not their customers. We're in a democracy. We're not in a business. Verma Greenlee. Today, Vladimir Putin denied interfering in the United States election and said Americans who are making that charge and suggesting Donald Trump's aides colluded with Russia are preventing Trump from fulfilling his campaign promises on health care, infrastructure, and many other issues. What do you think of this? Verma, do you see that that statement by Putin itself is an interference in the United States, in our domestic politics? I mean, the irony here is that Putin complained yesterday and today about Americans being concerned about his crackdown on dissidents and marchers and demonstrators who were upset about corruption in Russia. He said, it's none of your business, it's my business. It's an internal affair. And so, what about Putin interfering in the United States election? What about Putin even making these kinds of statements? Siding with Donald Trump? There's a lot of information coming out about what Putin and the Russians have been doing to American democracy, but also to other democracies, using the same techniques in France. Any of you out there in France, you know exactly what I mean. Not just propaganda, but fake news. Abusing their power, abusing the internet, social media, creating the assumption and the appearance that something is news that is not news, driving wedges between political parties, inside political parties, making Americans distrust one another, making French people distrust one another. Megan Bale. Is the reason Republicans in the House and Senate aren't seriously pursuing a real investigation of Trump and the Russians because Russia has dirt on them and essentially owns them? Megan, I don't think so. We've got to be careful not to become too conspiratorial ourselves. I know and have known most people, or I should say many people, on both sides of the aisle, Republicans as well as Democrats. Almost everybody I have worked with and know who is in an elected position in Congress is there basically for the right reasons. I mean, they care about the country. They may have different views about what should be done. They may have different ideologies. They're supported by different kinds of people in terms of the views that these people have about what is the nature of the good. But most people are trying to do the right thing. And if we get caught up in conspiracy theories ourselves, there's almost no end to it. So until we have real evidence, let's not jump the gun. Reggie Moore, who should be the Democratic candidate in 2016? Do you really believe Michelle Obama has what it takes? How about Caroline Kennedy or Joe Kennedy? Some of you I know have written to me, you've suggested others. Oprah Winfrey, some of you suggested Mark Warner. There are many ideas out there. My point is that it is not too early to begin thinking about who should be the Democratic candidate in 2020. Now, if this were ordinary times, I would say, no, wait for another year or two, wait until people make themselves obvious, make it clear who is running or who is eligible to run and who might be a good candidate. But I think we also owe it to ourselves in the country to be thinking about possibilities right now, because these are not ordinary times. And it would be helpful to have somebody out there who rallied the troops. I think that Elizabeth Warren is doing a great job. Bernie Sanders is doing a great job. I think there can be others as well. And I do think Michelle Obama is extraordinary. I think she's a woman of extraordinary eloquence and grace. Rachel Morton, I've heard that Trump's appointees, including those inside departments and agencies, have to sign a loyalty oath or a statement that they will not criticize Trump. Is this true? Rachel, I've heard the same thing. In fact, a number of people have told me that their relatives or friends who have been appointed to positions in the Trump administration or who are considering appointments have been given a whole 300-page set of instructions and oaths that they have got to sign, including that they will not criticize Donald Trump. I do not know this for a fact. This is all hearsay. But you've heard, obviously, the same thing I've heard. If it is the case, I think a strong case can be made that that's not constitutional. That abridges people's freedom of speech. Now, it's one thing about being loyal to the United States. It's another about having to swear loyalty to Donald Trump. There is a difference. Let me emphasize that. The theme tonight is accountability. Loyalty to Donald Trump is not a sign of patriotism. Loyalty to the United States is the sign of patriotism. It's important that government employees and all of us feel responsible to the United States and loyal to the United States in terms of what is best about the United States, but not to Trump. Don't ever let anyone get confused about that. Shelley Kelly, why hasn't Trump's impeachment begun? Shelley, let me just say this. And several of you have asked me about why don't we have more of an investigation going on with regard to conflicts of interest and Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner and all of the rest. Why isn't more being done? The answer to all your questions has to do with the theme tonight, which is lack of accountability. When Republicans have both the House and the Senate, and you have somebody like Trump in the White House, we haven't seen this combination before. We have had, in the past, periods of time when one party has all three branches of government. But we have not had one party in charge of both chambers of the Congress, and also at the same time the presidency, and have a president who doesn't understand democracy, doesn't respect democratic institutions. In this situation, which is new for us, we don't know essentially what to do because there is no avenue of accountability. Normally, the House or the Senate would investigate impeachable offenses. Normally, the House Ethics Committee, for example, would hold hearings on ethical issues and conflicts of interest. But there is nothing like that going on. The Republicans don't want to rock the boat. They still want to anticipate that they will be running in 2018 with Donald Trump as president. Therefore, they don't want to antagonize him. He has shown himself to be a bully. This may change. In fact, my encouraging word tonight, and I will end with this, is that as we push back, the states, the courts, all of us as active, engaged citizens, as we all push back, we are beginning to have an influence. You can see it every day. The White House is in chaos, in shambles. Much of what Donald Trump has wanted to do, he is not getting done. There is a civil war in the Republican Party. None of this would have happened without pushback. And so I want to urge you again, as I do every night, to continue what you're doing. If you're not doing it already, if you're not engaging, if you're not yet as activist as you think you could be, please become so. We need you. That's the end of tonight's Resistance Report. I'll see you tomorrow.